A naughty boy tortures the poor ants every day by throwing water on them. To take their revenge, the ants discover a magic potion that turns the boy into a tiny ant. In this huge colony of ants, everyone has their own responsibility. One such ant is Zoc. He's the colony wizard and responsible for making medicines. But Zoc wants to do something more than that. Therefore, he starts working on a magic potion. Even in the middle of night, he disturbs everyone to find his final ingredient for the potion, the fire crystals. Zoc must complete his work as soon as possible as the ants are in great danger. Their colony lies in the front yard of a small family house. There lives a young insecure boy named Lucas. He doesn't have any friends and often gets bullied because of his small height. Instead of trying to figure out a solution, Lucas has accepted that the big should torture the small ones. Therefore, he takes out his frustration on the ant colony by shooting them with a water gun. Afterwards, he starts stepping on them. Poor ants run around to save themselves. They all call Lucas the Destroyer. The kid almost steps on Zoc, but suddenly his mother calls him back to the house. Lucas's parents are going on a vacation and ask if Lucas will be fine with his elder sister and her granny. His mother loves him a lot and wants her son to share if something is bothering him. But Lucas hates being treated like a baby and says that he can handle his problems by himself. Meanwhile, Zoc is busy trying to complete his potion, but the fire crystals don't seem to be working. His girlfriend Hova comes to check on him and advises him to take a break. The head of council also arrives there as he is really worried for the colony's well-being. The attacks of the Destroyer are becoming more frequent, and their food supplies are running low. Zoc assures everyone that once he completes the potion, the colony will be prosperous once again. He is ready to fight back with the Destroyer. On the other hand, Hova doesn't like violence and suggests that they should try to have a peaceful conversation with the Destroyer. Zoc laughs off the suggestion and continues working on the potion. He stays up all night and figures out the flaw. The crystals are not polished enough. Zoc cleans them with a resin and completes his potion. Unfortunately, there's no time to celebrate as another attack is coming their way. Lucas gets bullied again, and like always, he takes out his frustration by throwing water at the ant colony. The local exterminator spots Lucas and appreciates his efforts. The exterminator offers his service to sweep away the ants and asks Lucas to sign a contract. At first, Lucas feels reluctant, but then he tries to be independent and signs the contract without even reading it. Meanwhile, the poor ants have been flooded brutally. Zoc had enough and decided to execute his plan right away. As the night sets in and Lucas goes to sleep, the ants march to his bedroom and pour the potion inside Lucas's ear. When Lucas opens his eyes, everything in his room seems to be huge. Actually, he is turned into a tiny boy by the potion Zoc made. Luca panics and runs around. He accidentally falls in the chips bag and meets the ants waiting for him. They carry him and proceed toward their colony. The granny wakes up by the noise and assumes that the aliens have attacked. She is obsessed with this idea and keeps fans around her to scare the aliens. She uses her goggles to scan the ants passing by. The granny spots the tiny Lucas and falls unconscious by the shock. Lucas is carried outside the house and gets thrown into the ant hill. He crashes here and there before getting caught by the ants again. They all gather around the queen and ask her to choose a punishment for the Destroyer. Most of the ants want to kill Lucas, as he has destroyed their families and homes. Lucas gets scared and explains that he didn't know that ants had families or feelings. He killed them because he thought that ants are just a bunch of tiny and stupid insects. Hearing this, the queen decides to give Lucas an interesting punishment. He has to live like an ant and learn everything they do. This will teach him to value their life and he will not dare to hurt them again. Zoc believes that the punishment is too easy and advises the queen to give this matter a second thought. But the queen seems to be determined and lets Hova be the guardian of Lucas. Hova is really excited and keeps asking a bunch of questions about humans. Lucas doesn't answer them and begs to let him go home. Hova advises him to accept the queen's decision if he wants to be free. He must find his place in the colony. The training starts by learning about foraging. For this session, many young ants are divided into teams, and Lucas is put in one of them. The instructor is a female ant named Krila. She explains that foraging is a team effort. Each team must act as a single unit to avoid obstacles, get the sweet rock and come back to the nest. The first team that comes back wins. Krila's friend Fugax also reaches there to cheer up the young ones. The opponent team works together and leads the race while Lucas wants to do it individually. However, his team forces him to work together, and they cross all the obstacles really quickly. The last task is to climb up a wall. Lucas's team tries giving him a hand, but he refuses to take any help and makes his team lose. Hova advises him to be more like an ant, but Lucas says that he can't have 6 legs or walk up on a wall. In response, Hova explains that being an ant is not just that. It's about being a part of the colony and not always thinking of yourself first. Suddenly, Hova feels something weird and tells Lucas to run. Their sworn enemy, the wasps, are coming. All the ants are running for their lives. Zoc rushes to help Hova and also calls Lucas to give a hand, but Lucas runs away to save himself. A wasp follows him and is eager to eat him right away. Luckily, Lucas finds a firecracker. He uses a piece of broken glass and shines it under the sun to light the cracker. The sound scares away wasps and ants assume that Lucas saved them. They all cheer for him, but Zoc comes over and reveals that Lucas was just saving himself. Lucas feels ashamed for himself and regrets his cowardly behavior. However, the ants are still polite with him and even offer him dinner. Lucas likes the ant food at first, but then he sees it coming out of a bug. He starts to feel nauseated, so Hova gives him medicine called alka root, which makes Lucas burp. He thanks Hova for the help, but he is still worried about Zoc hating him. To cheer him up, Hova takes Lucas to know more about their history. Their colony was started by a single ant, whom they call as the Mother. Their walls have paintings of her, and they still believe she will come back someday. They also have the picture of their biggest terror, but none of the ants actually saw him. Lucas takes a closer look and realizes that it's the picture of the exterminator. He remembers about the contract he signed, so the exterminator must be reaching here soon. Lucas must fix this problem. He needs to get back home, but the ants will not allow him. Lucas figures out a plan and tells Hova that he can help them get food from his kitchen. They head to his house along with Krila and Fugax. It's the first time Lucas brought his friends home because he never had any before. The floor is carpeted, so it will take days for them to reach the kitchen. Lucas looks around and spots some petals. He teaches the ants how to use the petals as gliders. They fly around the house, and Lucas tells them more about his family. This reminds him that he didn't properly say goodbye to his sweet mother. He has become so selfish without even realizing it. After flying through the living room, they reach the kitchen. Krila and Fugax get crazy to see so many jelly beans, and they immediately start collecting them. Meanwhile, Lucas proceeds to do his own task. He reads the exterminator's phone number from the refrigerator and rushes to dial it. Unfortunately, he makes a mistake and calls a restaurant. Lucas assumes that he cancelled the extermination contract, but in reality, he just cancelled a pizza delivery. Hova keeps looking at him in confusion, but she believes that Lucas is doing something good for them. Suddenly, Lucas's sister arrives and panics to see the ants. She grabs the phone and uses it to hit the ants. Luckily, they all survive and escape through the sink. They head back to the colony where they get encountered by Zoc. He is really angry to see the ants hanging out with the destroyer. He stops Lucas to have a quick chat. Zoc tells him that he is never going to turn him back to normal, and there's no place for him in the ant colony either. It's better for Lucas to try looking for a new home. Hearing this, Lucas walks away to find a new life. Zoc returns to the colony and confesses that he sent Lucas away. This makes Hova really angry, and she scolds Zoc for being so narrow-minded and cruel. She runs away to find the kid. Lucas is sitting beside the lake questioning his life decisions, when suddenly a frog appears out of nowhere. Lucas runs to save his life while Hova and others also arrive to save him. They try climbing up on a tin can, but Lucas fails and gets eaten by the frog. This incident devastates Hova, and she blames herself for not taking proper care of the kid. Zoc loves her a lot and can't see her like this. He decides to fix his mistake and he runs after the frog. He intentionally gets swallowed and uses an alka root to make the frog. It shoots out all the insects out of his stomach. Lucas wonders why Zoc put himself in danger, but Zoc explains that an ant doesn't feel reluctant to sacrifice himself for his friends. Lucas gets impressed and talks a little more with Zoc. He tells him about the city and the buildings, and how humans are different from ants. They all don't work together because of their differences. Hearing this, Zoc gets really shocked because he believes that it's the differences that make a colony strong. People might be different, but they all are an essential part of the whole. This makes Lucas think really deeply, and he regrets torturing the ants just because they were smaller than him. The next morning brings bad news. The exterminator has arrived. Lucas panics and explains to the ants how dangerous the exterminator is. The head of the council gets enraged after knowing that Lucas is the one who called the exterminator, but Zoc says it was a mistake of the past. Right now, only Lucas knows how to stop this calamity. Lucas suggests using the shrinking potion on the exterminator, but they need to get close to him. For this purpose, Lucas takes the ants to form an ally with the wasps. If the exterminator starts his operation, all of them will be killed, so they must work together. The wasps agree, so the ants ride them to shoot at the exterminator. Unfortunately, the clever guy is covering his eyes and ears. He uses a toxic gas to attack the ants. All of the poor insects start to fall down one by one. Hova gets stuck under an injured wasp, and she tells Lucas to run away to save himself. Lucas remembers what he has learned in these few days. They are a colony, and no member will leave their friend behind. This awakes the ant inside him, and he carries up the heavy wasp, and they run towards a mail post. Finally, Lucas has also learned how to climb like an ant. Zoc rushes there and rescues Lucas and Hova. The exterminator is heading towards the ant hill, and he must be stopped. Lucas has a brilliant plan to inject the potion inside the exterminator's body. They put the potion on the wasp sting and put it like an injection on the exterminator's back. He gets smaller and runs away. Lucas is presented in the council once again, but this time, all the ants are cheering for him. The queen says that she can see a strong colony, and Lucas is a part of it. He has proved himself and earned his freedom. Lucas says goodbye to his friends, and he gets back to normal size. His parents have returned from the trip, and Lucas immediately hugs his mother to make up for his rude behavior. The bully tries to tease him again, but Lucas gathers all the naive kids to stand against the bully. They may be weak individually, but together they are a strong colony. Lucas just formed a group of friends, and he gets invited to play with them. But before leaving, he doesn't forget to give his ant friends a bunch of sweet jelly beans. Never underestimate the power of teamwork. Even the weak become strong when they are united.